All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Michael Stamatinos, your host for the Advancing Healthcare Innovation Show. And if you're new to us, we are crazy passionate about healthcare innovation and more specifically, adoption of innovation. And our aim is to bring stories of innovation within the healthcare space, highlighting real people who are truly innovating within our space and ultimately advancing society at large. And we've got a really important packed year this year with some new content and some incredibly amazing interviews that we have planned. So very excited about that. And I just want to encourage you, wherever you are, wherever you're consuming this content, hit subscribe right now. So future content will come right to you. In addition, I'd also like to encourage you to comment. You know, it's always nice to hear how people feel about the content. We do review those, we do read them, and we do make pivots based on that. And if the content is helpful to you, would you mind sharing it on your social media, you know, with your network? I'm so grateful when this content makes a difference in people's lives, and ultimately we are advancing healthcare forward, and even more grateful when we can bring more innovators and doers into our community. So without further ado, I'm so excited to bring our next guest onto the show here. Ankur Jain is leading development at Walgreens. He's a true innovator. And from the first time I had a conversation with Ankur, I knew that he needed to be on the show. So Ankur, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
Awesome. So I always like to kind of start out with our guests and just ask them just a little bit about their background. So would you mind maybe just giving a little bit of color to the audience about, you know, your background and sort of what you've been working on as far as innovation is concerned?
Sure. So I've been at Walgreens for about 3 years. I'm leading the architecture for different areas in digital, one of them being healthcare innovation platform. And within that, we're creating marketplace for providers to come and actually a channel for consumers as well, more so, where they can come and find different providers for different ailments that they have. And so we're creating this platform where, you know, we can connect them with these providers. We can provide their data back to them in one place. We can help them make scheduled appointments with these providers. So, a lot going on in the space, and I know there's a lot of people trying to do the similar stuff as well. But it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. So let me just sort of back up the train a second here. When it comes to innovation, I think innovation's personal, the way people define it. How do you define innovation, and moreover, you know, how does Walgreens define innovation? What does that look like? And then I can kind of ask some subsequent questions after that.
Yeah, so Walgreens has a lot going on from an innovation perspective. I mean, COVID vaccination is, one place. COVID testing is another one where we've done a lot of work recently, and certainly doing a lot of work in COVID vaccination ongoing right now, where we've been having sleepless nights. So from a Walgreens perspective, and I'll take a step back before we dive into vaccination stuff, but from Find Care that Walgreens has, and specifically healthcare, right? In healthcare innovation, we got basically a mandate from our leaders that, you know, you can just create your own team. And that's what we did. We started our restructured the entire team to smaller scrums to do rapid development. And our leaders are very forthcoming in wanting to innovate quickly to help our customers. So there's certainly areas in Walgreens that are not as fast moving, but there are certainly areas that are very fast moving as well.
So it sounds like an aspect of innovation, the way Walgreens views it, you know, is really driven by leadership. Mm-hmm. And then secondarily, it sounds much like a startup, because in startup world, it's very driven by small teams. You know, I call them, you know, the SEAL teams. They go in, they look at a problem, and they attack that problem, and they continue to make pivots and iterations, and they do it in short sequences, in sprints. And what's amazing to hear is that, you know, Walgreens by no stretch is it's not a small organization. It's a very large organization. So to hear this is actually quite fascinating.
Yeah, and it's great that you mentioned that because it is truly a startup culture that we built for the Find Care team, so that we could develop at the pace that we needed to. And it's been great. I mean, in I think about, I probably don't have the right numbers to, and I probably should have collected these before the show, but in the last 2 years, I mean, especially because a lot of the traffic from COVID, we've had millions of visits. Whereas when we piloted this, we had more like 100,000 visits probably in a few months, which is more like millions now.
So obviously a lot has happened in the world over the course of the last 12 months. And I would imagine that, innovation was happening prior to COVID. What problems really have come up, from a prioritization aspect, and where are you guys focusing most of your time right now? You mentioned a few things, but I'm wondering, how has that shifted?
Yeah, good question. So one thing I do want to bring up that we did as part of Find Care was clinical trials matching, and this is a very interesting space where we partnered with Microsoft to really bring forward a solution that can help consumers. So just to talk a little bit on that, and then I'll dive into some of the other things we're doing. So clinical trials, for others that don't know, you can go to clinicaltrials.gov and you can see all the clinical trials that are currently ongoing, and they're all over US. And to just pick one and understand the requirements to qualify for any of those, you would need to be a mad genius. It's horrible how difficult it is for people to understand which clinical trials they're eligible for. And so we worked with Microsoft, and what was developed was basically a mechanism to go through all of these clinical trials that are there, bring out all the key elements that are applicable that will help qualify you for a clinical trial. And from an interface perspective, a chatbot was created where you could interact and specify, what you're looking for. And the chatbot would go through the qualification criteria for different clinical trials and find you the ones that you are eligible for, which was huge. And we launched that, I think, in Houston market, and we've had great success over there. And we're hoping we can expand this nationwide in the coming months. So that's one. But coming to COVID, certainly priorities have changed a lot. So within Find Care, as COVID hit, we quickly shifted to providing a lot of virtual care partners and signed up a lot of virtual care partners on Find Care so that customers could, go through, especially, so we put another chatbot on there as well, which was done again in record time of probably from ideation to execution production was more like 4 days, where we could help customers understand the COVID symptoms if they were symptomatic, and then connect them to virtual healthcare partner within Find Care.
Wow, 4 days?
Yeah. These things moved very quickly when COVID started, and we are still moving very quickly, especially from a vaccination perspective. The pace is incredible. The kind of traffic and the number of people that are coming to schedule appointments is enormous. And just to give you a number, yesterday we scheduled over 200,000 appointments for customers for COVID vaccine.
You said 200,000?
200,000.
Wow. That's quite a few.
Yeah. And I think we've already vaccinated about over 1 million. I don't know the exact numbers, but certainly over 1 million people. But this is just growing at a rapid pace. And we're doing everything we can to help our customers where they can easily schedule an appointment and get vaccinated. And it's important to get, especially with the different options we have, to get dose 1 and dose 2 appointments. And that's been a pivot point for us as well.
These are wonderful successes to hear, for our audience to hear. Are there, I would imagine, on the contrary side of things, maybe there are some setbacks that have occurred through this. Do you mind sharing maybe some learnings that, things might not have gone so well. And, to the degree that you're actually able to share, obviously there's some things that I think might be confidential, but if you could speak to any of that, I think that might be good from a learning standpoint.
Yeah, so from a learning standpoint, again, COVID vaccination is a good example where we started our journey very quickly and we learned along the way, right? We had a certain user experience for customers and we learned that that was not working. And so I think about 3 or 4 weeks back, we basically redid the entire experience for our customers. And we're learning even today with the problems they're facing and the problems we're learning that they're facing. For example.
Well, how did you do that? Is it just more or less interacting directly with a consumer, through surveys? What was that feedback mechanism so that allowed you guys to iterate so quickly?
We we have customers reaching out directly to us. So
directly to you and your team?
Oh yeah, I mean, we have customers reaching out to our CEOs if they have concerns. We have this is high visibility project. Our board members are sometimes reach out if for concerns. So we react quickly to people's concerns. So that's a good thing. And so the experience I was talking about, like 4 weeks back, we literally got together in a room and said, no, this needs to be fixed. And I think over the weekend, everyone worked. And I'm thinking about from, again, inception to putting it out in production was about 4 or 5 days where we changed the whole thing. And it was all hands on deck to get this done. And again, we're learning from it. We're trying to make things easier for our customers. We have, for example, opened up tools for availability for customers to check quickly where vaccinations are available. We are partnering with states and other partners so that they can have this information on their sites as well. Because again, other people are also looking to have this information and spread this in their own ways. So it's been a fast pace for us.
Yeah, it sounds like really what you guys are focused on is this notion of access, and especially in today's day and age, folks want to have that confidence that they can, get vaccinated and knowing where they can get it. I think when you live in a world of uncertainty, that creates a whole nother subset of problems, whether it might be anxiety or whatever it might be. But yeah, you're in the access game. And access is something that I personally am incredibly passionate about. I think maybe that's why we connected so well initially. Sort of shifting gears a little bit, we're not going to be in COVID forever. Hopefully not. Yep. But where do you see the puck going? Where do you see, more innovation that's needing to happen? It sounds like you're very, very focused on the consumer experience. Yep. What about sort of provider experience? Because you mentioned that you're bringing on a lot of providers for the virtual care sort of segment. What kind of feedback do you get from providers, and where do you see the puck going on that segment?
Yeah, so there's providers, payers, and there's innovation happening everywhere, to be honest. From a provider perspective, so we've partnered with a lot of providers, and what we're trying to do, at least at Walgreens, is have easy access to these providers and the data from these providers as well. And I think a lot of providers are working in the same way as well. So one area of innovation that I've seen a lot that's happening is people are using the FHIR standard to provide access to data to customers. And there's a lot of different companies, startups, and applications that are being developed to connect to these providers to get that access. People are using that data and providing personalized recommendations for your health, well-being based on the data that they have collected, right? So that's an area that a lot of companies, I feel, are coming up and helping customers or consumers.
That's really interesting to think about. When does it sounds like you have sort of these SEAL teams that are iterating and developing very, very quickly. And maybe from a development standpoint, you guys have a lot of horsepower. And there's a lot of innovation that's happening outside. Can you talk about, looking at it from bringing innovations from the outside in? When is that appropriate? When do you kind of say, we need to farm this out. We need to bring it from the outside in. When does that actually happen?
It happens a lot, actually. So even within Find Care, as we are developing and coming up with a roadmap and setting the vision of what we want to do, we looked at other companies that are doing something similar. And we looked at and evaluated companies to see if it would make sense to partner with them or even buy them. So we do that. And even in COVID vaccine space, we see there are startups that are doing scheduling. And we evaluate if it makes sense to partner with them. If are they doing things better than what we are doing to help our consumers, right? So we do it all the time. It's very common for us to, when we're looking to solve a problem, to evaluate whether we should custom build it, or if there are partners that we can look at that are doing this and they can help accelerate our vision.
In this use case, with getting access, I would imagine that speed is important. So if there's a solution that's already on the market, working relatively well, it probably makes more sense to partner with someone like that as opposed to building it from scratch in-house. Just notating that. Have there been instances where you made a decision to build it and then scrapped it and decided to go from the outside? Or vice versa, or said, hey, we want to partner, and then you say, you know what, it's better for us to just build it?
That does happen. I can't give specific instances or examples in this case, but that has happened both ways. And within Walgreens, and I've worked at other companies as well, where we've done that. So before Walgreens, I was a consultant for 11 years with Envisia. And I was working for healthcare clients over there as well. And we worked with clients where we did that, where they actually bought a system from a different partner, a partner with someone, and they customize it for their needs. And eventually, even after a lot of customization, it was just not working. So they had to go and basically rebuild things from scratch. So that happens.
So it's an expensive experience.
It is expensive.
Yeah, that's interesting to notate that. What else? Are there other areas that you think are worth noting as far as where innovation is occurring? I think our audience is a global audience. So any other stories that you think you can think of that might be worth highlighting?
I think we talked about providers, but I think payers are doing a lot of innovation as well. UHC, it seems like, has a lot of subsidiaries or startups that they have within to do innovation. So I think a couple that I know are Rally Health that are doing stuff around similar to what we're doing for Find Care, but they're employee focused and employer health. They have another startup called Dividose, which is around adherence and medication and shipping medication to customers. So there's innovation happening in healthcare a lot more than people realize. Certainly in the past 10 years, things have changed drastically, right?
Even within the last 12 months. Just think about what COVID has done within the last 12 months. It's probably sped things up by about 10 years, if not more.
Yep, absolutely. 10 years back, I remember things used to be so slow in healthcare industry. And you're right. Even before, I think even before COVID, things were speeding up in the last few years drastically. And COVID, like you said, has just accelerated that.
And what do you think, even just prior to COVID, what do you think some of those contributing factors were as to the reason that innovation adoption was occurring at a quicker rate? Can you kind of put a finger on it?
If I was to put a finger, I think what Obama did, and again, don't want to get political at all, but I think some of the mandates they had to digitize and access to records, I think that really helped kick things in gear a little bit. And then again, we have IoMT devices that have been coming out, right? So with smartphones coming out and IoMT devices, that has also helped increase adoption of digital interfaces. So we put all these things together, and there's a market for people wanting easy access to their data, better ways to get information about themselves, and have the ability to offer these customized recommendations for themselves.
So that data and information is organized in a way that is available not only to the patient, but also to the provider and to the payer?
It's a tricky question. The data, when it comes to PHI data, is you have to have a lot of consent all over the place, and that gets tricky, especially in Walgreens world. But everywhere, right? From a provider to payer, it's easy access to data. From provider to patient, it should be easy access to data, and that's where things have usually been not as easy, and that's what's improved. And with IoMT devices, I mean, you basically have access to some of your health data on your smartphones, which you never did because, well, you don't have devices reading or tracking you as easily as you did.
Yeah.
So you can have your own inferences, and you have applications that help with the inferences as well to guide you about what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong.
Have you found that, with your consumers segments, that there are some consumers that maybe have, are apped out, meaning there's just have so many apps that they just kind of get frozen out? And if so, how have you sort of cut through the noise? Because it seems to me that there's so many platforms, there's so many applications that are out now that they all start to sound the same. How do you sort of differentiate that when you're engaging, with your customers?
Yeah, so for just to speak specifically on Walgreens, right? So Walgreens mobile app is huge. I think many years ago, Walgreens thought about having different functionalities in different parts of the app, or different apps for different capabilities. But we've really stuck to having one app with a lot of different capabilities, and it's not always easy. So kudos to our mobile team and product and everyone to ensure that we can provide that experience. But you're right. I mean, there's a lot of different apps and devices that are out there. And it is tricky for customers to figure out which one's right for them. Apple has done a great job with HealthKit in, centralizing some of that data. I wish something similar was being done on the Android side from Google. I know they're making inroads of their own, and we've partnered with Google on a lot of different stuff. So there's innovation happening everywhere on that front as well. I don't know what a good answer is on how to help customers on this.
Yeah.
It is a situation that we have at least not solved. From Walgreens' perspective, at least, it's we're offering one app so that you don't have to download multiple things.
I mean, thank you for your candor. It's always nice to just sort of hear a little bit of realness, and that's why we try to talk to real people that are doing real things. What you guys have been successful in taking ideas and executing on them. What's sort of like a couple things that you can share with the audience? Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs, there's a lot of folks in the payer provider space, even investors that listen, in on the show. But if you were to say, hey, this is what we've done that's allowed us to be really effective and really successful, can you maybe summarize what that looks like? What does it look like to work in a highly effective, highly cohesive team?
The one thing I would say is you have to have a good vision and an understanding of that vision, so that you can follow through with that. When you don't have that, that's when things don't work out well. And once you have that good vision and belief of what you're building, we're lucky that we could put a team together to actually execute on it. But that's where it gets challenging for a lot of startups and entrepreneurs to get funding, to get the team that they need to actually execute on it.
And I would imagine that there isn't a shortage of healthcare startups that are trying to work with the Walgreens of the world. What would you suggest is sort of the best, the most refined approach, when they are trying to reach out to a Walgreens, which is a huge organization? Any tips on how to approach, larger NGOs like yours?
We actually partner with a lot of startups. So within Find Care, when I say we've partnered with providers, we have partnered with a lot of small companies as well, very quickly, um, to offer capabilities to our customers. And a lot of times what we do is we offer those capabilities to our employees within our employee portal, test out those capabilities and make sure they work well. And then we expand that to our consumers. So we're lucky to have a test bed inside our applications to do that. But Walgreens is actually very open to working with startups and other companies like that. I can't give out contact information. Otherwise, I would say just reach out to this person and they'll take care of you.
Awesome. Well, Ankur, look, it's been wonderful to have you on the show. I'm very, very appreciative of you carving out some time. Obviously, you've had many, many sleepless nights, but any parting thoughts that you want to kind of give to the audience?
There's a lot going on in healthcare space. COVID has been hard on all of us, but I think a lot of people have come out, or have come out stronger. People have had to pivot, companies have had to pivot, and Walgreens included. We've had to pivot for COVID needs, and it's not far. It's in sight, I would say. Vaccinations are happening, and things will get back to normal soon.
Fantastic. Well, to the audience, you guys have heard just a wonderful testimony, a wonderful story of what it takes to innovate, even inside such a really large organization. And we're always looking at bringing on various entrepreneurs. We've got investors that come on, folks on the payer side, folks on the provider side. And Ankur, thank you for sharing a bit of your story today, some insights, some golden nuggets, some bits of wisdom, and some things on what maybe not to do, which is more important oftentimes for folks. So look, we have plenty more information, plenty more just awesome interviews that are on the docket. And again, if you've liked what you heard today, we'd love to have you subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.